Ignite Youth, ahoy! Ahoy, Ignite Youth, ahoy! I can't hear you. Ahoy, Ignite Youth, ahoy! Yes, thank you so much. Thank you. It's such a pleasure. It's such an honor to be amongst you all and attending this life-changing conference. Allow me to acknowledge Prophet Makandiwa and Amai for planning this life-changing space for young people. It's a place for you guys to grow. It's a space to develop, to network, to engage, to learn, to share best practices. And I had your future husband or your future wife could be here as well. So, it's a plus, eh? Everything is catered for here. Let me also acknowledge our pastors here and the administration team that has managed to put up this amazing, amazing congregation. I'm going to tell everyone on my social media pages that if you want your life to be changed, you need to go and fellowship at UFIC. So, I want people who are energetic, right? That vigor, the energy that you have, please keep it going, right? It's gonna be lit, and it's going to be amazing, but don't lose the purpose of why you are here, right? I know what happens with your ages. Don't lose the purpose. Enjoy, but don't lose the purpose. And so, I'm going to start off by sharing a bit of my background. Not all that was being beamed and what you were seeing about who Ekenia Chifamba is. I'm going to tell you the real me. So, I grew up in Chitungwiza. Are there Chi-towners in the house? Yeah, don't be embarrassed. Don't be embarrassed about your background. Because it does not determine who you're going to be in future. So I grew up in Chitungwiza, and it's a story for another day. Kananda kuyenda kumba mazwano andiendi kumba, I go home. I go home because I join my rich cousins who use Samora, right? So I grew up in Chitungwiza in a family of 5. 3 girls and 2 boys, and I happened to be the last born. My dad was just a teacher, and my mom a cross-border. So I always tell people, for me to have all these accolades, the qualifications, the big name, so growing up in Chitungwiza, there are a lot of things that I experienced that pushed me to become the person that I am today. We had cottages at our house. And these cottages, we housed quite a lot of people. But I remember one family, 4 girls and a boy. When they moved in, they had a set of 6 chairs and a table. But the reason why I'm telling you about the set of 6 chairs and a table, I want you to listen on how the story ended. They used to fight, the parents. It was so bad, by then we didn't know that it was domestic violence. And then when they used to fight, neighbors would come through, peep through, watching the drama. Nobody bothered on how it affected the children, the 4 girls and the boy. They fought every time. Vairovana nemachea iwayo. For the 9 years that we stayed with them at our house, Pavaka Zobva, I just saw the set of 6 chairs and the table. Akaiswa panga paine huni, kuratidza kuti papa sisina chinhu. Unfortunately, all 4 girls never managed to go to school up to O level. And sadly, the only boy in the family died due to shady drug dealings. So this is one family. And then there was a friend of mine whom I was so close to. Both parents died before she turned 14. And by the time she turned 14, she had her first child at the age of 14. And then after the funeral, they disappeared and went home, left her in the care of her 2 brothers. She experienced the trauma of losing a child at the age of 15. And right now, every time I go back to Tungwiza, my heart bleeds because she's now a sex worker. 2 of my friends whom I went to primary school with, in Indakazo, and I went to school, high school in Yadire Kwamtoko. When I came back, they were both married to the same husband, a 54-year-old. One of these apostolic sects, and that was the end of the road for them. I have seen brothers that I grew up with in Chitungwiza dying due to drug and substance abuse. I have seen young girls dying whilst doing backyard abortion. I have seen young girls who struggle when they go to tertiary institutions. Sex for marks, I know you have all heard about it. I have seen young girls who struggle in the workspaces because you also want that position that you desperately are fighting for, but you cannot get it, but somebody else offers it on a silver plate, and you want to lose everything you've worked for because you want that title. I have seen young boys, young men, who have died because they committed suicide. So many cases of bullying that we've read about and seen on various social media platforms. I have seen young girls who left the comfort of their homes going to school, tertiary schools, universities, because you want a degree. But upon going to school, you realize there is more that you want. You're seeing others wearing the most recent type of shoes. You want the best hairstyles. You want to buy the most expensive heels, the most expensive handbags. And in the end, I have seen them losing their lives and joining the art queue at Parerenyatwa. I have seen all this. And because of all this that I have seen, it pushed me to make a difference. It pushed me to bring everyone to the table, to have a conversation on what it is that we can do to collectively put an end to cases of gender-based violence that we are seeing spreading like a wildfire. I know a lot of times when I go on radio, when I go on television, people ask, where is this happening? It's happening in Zimbabwe. It's happening globally, where we have seen young girls who are burdened with parenthood at a tender age of 13 and becoming a mother. And you are coming from a background where both parents are late. Trust me, I've seen it all. A family in Epworth, the 12-year-old is the eldest. And then there are 2 others, a 6-year-old and a 3-year-old. The 12-year-old is the one who goes out to fend for the rest of the family. And what does she do? She goes to a place called Pabusta, where then she's a sex worker in order to get that $1 so she can feed her siblings. It's happening, it's there. And I know here we've got people who are coming from all walks of life globally. And you have also seen child marriages happening in different forms from where you are coming from. So I want us today to talk about abuse. I want us to talk about abuse in the family. I want us to talk about abuse in the churches, abuse that's happening in tertiary institutions, abuse that's happening in high schools, abuse that's happening in workspaces. I want us to talk about human trafficking. I want us to touch a bit on drug and substance abuse. So I know you are wondering, Shamari Mwanaskana. Shamari Mwanaskana is a non-profit making organization which was founded some 10 years ago by a lady from Chitungwiza, Anonze Kenya Chifamba. And our focus is on creating spaces, opportunities, and platforms for young girls between the ages of 0 to 24. And I will tell you why I say 0 at a later stage. Or maybe I can just say it now. So, the worst case that we have dealt with of abuse is that of an 18-month-old baby girl who was raped by her biological father. So we say 0 because we know they don't have the voice. They cannot speak for themselves, so we become that voice for them. And our work as Shamari Mwanaskana, I'm sure you can see our vision, but I want to focus on our mission to empower girls and young women to be active agents of their own development through igniting power within to reach their full potential. Igniting. So I'm not in the wrong space after all. I want us to talk about the pillars that we focus on so that it would also help you have an understanding of the presentation. We have 4 key pillars as Shamari. There is the Girls Protection and Support Services pillar. It provides services to girls who are facing all forms of abuse. So we actually do escorts, police, hospital, courts, psychosocial support, and a referral to safe shelters. And it would be of interest for you to know that we are in the process of constructing the first ever one-stop empowerment center for the below 18 age group. It's almost complete. Wow. So it's in Seke Rural in Mashonaland East, for those who are familiar with Mash East. And it's going to provide all our other 4 key pillars at the same site. Sustainable livelihoods, SRA, HR, leadership, and also GPSs. But a platform for peer-to-peer support as well. And then we have sustainable livelihoods. We have done a lot of awareness raising, capacity building for the past 10 years. We believe that some of the issues, majority actually of the issues that are pushing girls into sexual exploitation, into vulnerability, are usually issues of poverty. And then there is also the element of a one-stop empowerment center that we have put up. I think it would be good for some of you to come and visit. We have a whole one-stop center that looks into sustainable livelihoods in Mashonaland East in Murewa. And then we have our sexual and reproductive health rights. I know this is not a so comfortable topic to talk about in the house of the Lord, but we talk about these issues because we are seeing you die at a tender age. Hallelujah. And so we offer services, information, working with relevant government ministries to work around providing also SRA HR hubs. So next time, please do invite us to set up our SRA HR hub when you have the next Ignite Youth Camp. And then we have also set up a center for teen mothers in Chuota, Mashonaland East, which was also empowered. It was an initiative which was driven by the Education Amendment Act, because girls were allowed to go back to school after they become pregnant, right? And then we had challenges of girls who didn't have space where they could leave their kids and go to school. So the center allows the girls to come and leave their kids there. They go to school, pick them up. And then during the weekends, then we are teaching them the sustainable livelihoods. And then we have the leadership hub that we have for Shamari. You are welcome to also come through. As you do your Ignite Youth Camp, for me, I feel that element of leadership is here because there is mentorship as well. So leadership, we are looking at leadership in all aspects, political, social, economic. We are giving young women and girls, the boys as well, the opportunities to grow, learn, and develop. And then we also have our flagships as Shamari. We work with men and boys in a bid to promote gender equality. So we leave no one behind. We work with decision makers, we work with policy makers, we work with a multi-stakeholder approach. We work in schools. So after I'm done with my presentation, if you also want to be part of our Shamari Child Rights Clubs, please reach out. But we have a special platform for girls, Dandaro Revaskana. And it's a safe space where you get to discuss issues that you can't talk about at home with your parents. I know how difficult it is. You cannot go and tell mom that John is asking you out. Can you? I'm paying fees for you. Go to school. Focus on that. You cannot go and tell mom that you are anxious or depressed about something. What challenge would you have? Fees is paid for. Netflix, DSTV. What would really cause depression for you? But we know what causes anxiety. We are operating in 5 provinces of Zimbabwe, Mash East, Manicaland, Masvingo, Harare, but also to share good news with you that we are soon launching our first ever regional chapter in Zambia. So it's coming soon. So we want to talk about abuse. Forms of abuse that you have had. Anyone?
Is what is called emotional abuse, whereby individuals will be abused in a way which affects them emotionally, whereby they'll be depressed and might get into maybe major depression. Yeah.
Are you a social worker?
No.
Okay. Another form of abuse?
Most of the time, people don't take things seriously because at the end of the day, you feel this wasn't right. And then we become depressed, we become low. Otherwise, they become depressed and grades start dropping, you know? So yeah, verbal abuse is very dangerous.
I know.
Okay.
Any other form of abuse?
To your left.
Okay, yes, we also have another form of abuse, which is the most common one, which is sexual abuse. This is usually common. This form of abuse is common in ladies or girls. And usually, this is where someone is forced to do something sexual. Asirikuda.
Unwillingly.
We have one more right at the back.
Yeah, thank you, ma'am. Tonight, not your drug and substance abuse. No.
We have what we call drug and substance abuse.
Mazwano toritiro dombo.
Nowadays, we're calling it the rock.
Okay, thank you. Can we go back to our slides? Yes. I'm sure you've managed to outline most of the issues around forms of abuse, but there is also neglect. And I think this one is a bit complicated because then, yes, there's an element of failure to provide the basics and all. But I've also seen situations where parents are also trying their best. But kids do come to report and say, I'm being neglected. Why? Because they can't buy pizza, but you're getting sadzaga. And eating. And then there are the causes in different settings. Like I alluded to earlier on, that we're looking at abuse in the church, in the home, in tertiary institutions and all. Family, usually, dysfunction, substance abuse, financial stress, intergenerational patterns, but also for you to know that usually abuse that happens within the family setup, it involves close family members, the trusted ones. That's why it's also difficult to resolve issues of abuse when they happen within the family setup, because it's your fathers, your uncles, your brothers, your stepbrothers, right? And it becomes difficult most of the time to resolve these issues. Because ndiyananda kuti mkomo wake asungwe. I've had situations where a mother has opted to actually let go of her daughter because she wants to protect the husband, right? And community, power imbalances, social norms, lack of awareness, and all. But my cousins, we have mabvukutafara. We have also seen abuse that happens at public water collecting points. And I don't know if any one of you read about the popular story of Dreadwelly Wekumabvuku, who abused numbers of women and girls, or in a bid for them to access water. And then there is also abuse that happens in churches. Misuse of authority, religious interpretations, and all. Have you...
The Spirit would have spoken indeed.
There's a story that I have been pursuing of late of Matzbaba Ishmael. Those who have heard about it. How many of you have heard about it? Yeah, I made that guy arrested. That was just bad. Because then, there are thousands of people who are living at a shrine. There's no decent accommodation. Those kids don't have access to any form of identification. There's no food. They don't believe in going to school. They believe the challenges that we are facing right now of climate change is because you have allowed your kids to go to school, right? Kids are giving birth to other kids and they are losing their kids there, and they have got this deep pit that they keep at the shrine. Whoever dies,
Is thrown in the pit.
so what happens also is that people who stay at the shrine actually say, "Mwamusuka muka," you can actually see Wokorwe moon, Pamsoro Pemafu, because there's a grave there, right? So this is how bad it is. And then we still believe them to be powerful men of God, right? We also have seen what happens in other spaces of worship, where we have seen ill interpretations of the Holy Spirit, where people are told to come for prayers odd hours. And then eventually somebody starts touching your privates, right? And then one thing leads to another. And then we hear those cases. And if you go and report to any pastor close by, they will tell you, would you really want the men of God to be arrested? Let it pass. And we also want to talk about effects of abuse. And let me throw it back to you guys. Effects of abuse. What have you seen happening with friends, colleagues, relatives who have been abused? The changes that you have seen.
Thank you. So when we are trying to get low esteem, like to lose their confidence in schools.
Yes.
Then my grades are not secure.
Some people have low self-esteem and they lose confidence in school, and this causes a drop in their grades.
Okay, anyone else?
Okay. Hello. So others commit suicide due to being abused.
Yes, so many of them actually.
Thank you, ma'am. So there is a physiological effect of giving birth when your pelvic floor is still very young. So when you give birth at a very young age, let's say the teenage pregnancies, what mostly happens is that a woman's body is supposed to recompose after birth. Oh, I'm a fitness trainer. So it's supposed to recompose after birth, and your pelvic floor, it becomes strong. So when you're a teenager, it cannot recompose because of the age. So they end up dying because of that.
Yes, thank you for that. Anyone else before we go back to the slides?
Vanhu vari kufa after abuse, ari kucommita suicide because
Some
of
are committing
abuse.
suicide.
Because hauna kwekuchemera, unenge wangosara pasisina, unenge wakutoona kunge life yaguma.
Out of desperation from having no one to turn to, they feel like it's over for them.
People are being discriminated and stigmatized, and they cannot fit in the society because people are.
We have very intelligent gentlemen in the house. My daughters, munyatsotarisa nemuono wakanaka anditi?
Look carefully with a discerning eye.
So I think those are the most effects of abuse. I think the sad ones of those who end up committing suicide, issues of depression, and because Africa, we do not believe in issues of mental health, right? So the moment you start exhibiting signs of mental health, we will start laying hands on those people who actually do not have issues that are spiritual, that just need counseling, right? So we also need to have spiritual eyes to actually separate these issues. Whether this is an issue of somebody who probably could have been abused or who could have been vulnerable or otherwise. And it, precautions and prevention of abuse, I'm not going to focus more on that. Awareness raising, reporting channels, enforcing policies. So, the government of Zimbabwe is so privileged. We are so privileged because we have set in place a number of policies and that actually support and ensure that we deal with issues of abuse. There is the Marriage Act. I know there's a Gweta in the house. I don't want to say it wrongly and caught wanting. There's the Marriage Act, the Children's Rights Act. There is the high-level political compact, which was signed by the president himself, right? There is also, what else have you heard in terms of policies? Our constitution, right? And the recent one by His Excellency, the SI on age of consent. We used to struggle a lot, Kudara, with issues of young girls who are between the ages of 15 to 18, right? Because usually the law would not support them. We would have perpetrators enjoying immunity. Some of them, they would just go out there scot-free. They would be given community service. But now, there is that mandatory sentencing. So in terms of policies, we are okay. And then there's the issue of awareness raising. I liked how we used to do it during the COVID time. During the COVID time, churches, if you get into a shop, you board an aeroplane, you go on social media. Everybody would talk about safety measures as far as COVID was concerned. I strongly feel that's what we need to do. Talk about abuse in the church. That's what I do. When people have their matares after Tavi Gamun, that's just a reminder that if I find you wanting, you're definitely going to rot in prison. So we need to talk about this. Any opportunity that we get in schools, right? We need champions of change. Whilst we are talking about igniting, and it's champions of change amongst you who actually talk about abuse, right? And then there is an element of stigma. Do you know that even sometimes when you are a victim or a survivor, it's also difficult for the church to support you? Do you know that? It's very difficult. People can start calling you names in church after speaking in tongues, but people will remind you that remember that in 1945, you were raped by your father. Do you know that? And in some churches, I've gone to some apostolic sects where if you are known to be a survivor, you will not be given a chance. And is it?
To stand in front of people
or to give a testimony because wakashiba. And is it? So let's talk about bullying. How many of you have heard about bullying? And I know you guys, you think bullying only happens in preschool and primary school, right? So quickly, I want to hear your understanding of bullying and at what stage. I know there's bullying that happens in preschool where people actually take each other's lunch boxes, right? And then when we grow up, kushtrungwiza, vanhu vairamba kutamba newe. Ndizvo here?
Refuse to play with you.
And going to high school, people just deciding who should befriend who. And it's tertiary institutions. If you're not wearing heels as beautiful and as nice as Dr. Faith, then definitely, you cannot be a part of us, right? So Nduze, tell me, bullying, what have you heard about bullying?
I'll speak from a tertiary perspective in university. So bullying on the older side of people, like, above 18, 24, it comes off as passive aggression when people want to impose their ideas on you, and then when you seem to resist, then they start to make you seem like you're odd, you're weird, you're too religious, you're too uptight, and then you feel like you have to change, but this is not what I want to do.
Thank you. People will start seeing you like young Sheldon. Anyone else?
All right. Good morning, ma'am. There are various bullying, side effects, or rather, let me just say what happens when you get to be bullied. You can be bullied at our homestead. I'll use this as an example. I've been bullied. People called me various names. They would call me Munanism Soro,
Call me a guy with a big head.
So, ma'am, usually what happens when you're being bullied, they actually call you names that are not, that you wouldn't be comfortable with, whereby they talk about your disabilities or how slim you are. They can call you like Slim Shady, or you can be called maybe Maob, or you can be called various things. So what I'm saying is, what happens mostly when, people are being bullied, they actually use maybe a special disability that you might have, or anything that they just find vulnerable about you.
Yes. Name calling mawani wangu. Because chero nesuo kwedu kwatotamba nemesaizi yedu tinodedzwa mazita. Kana wakati simbei senu kudaishi. Unengo utori madhunda. Right? Kana usingagone kuimba zvawangachitaura zve, for those who can't sing, who are here, people can actually nickname you Master H. So
Name calling has gone as far even into this professional field where we are.
So, is there anyone else?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, so there's also bullying in the workspace. So I look very young, and I had a rather senior position at work. So my colleagues would then want me to respond a certain way to their suggestions, something I would have the final say on. And if I don't agree with on that, they would then maybe start to form groups. And when we're supposed to go out for lunch, they would then leave me and say, oh, we forgot to tell you we're going for lunch. That would then come off as passive-aggressive, like my sister said. So that would then communicate to me that next time you're making a decision, you have to make a decision in favor of us, which is then bullying because they are trying to abuse their relationship with me to make decisions on my behalf.
That's an interesting one, quite interesting. I have seen that happening in most workspaces. I'm an ex-banker, oh my God. You wouldn't want to hear this. You get to the banking sector, there are madaras who have been working there for more than 25 years, right? And then there you are, you just graduated from school.
You're coming here and wanting to take charge already.
Patakatanga bengi rino iri manga muchiri kupi mamuri kumba imi.
When we founded this bank, you were still at home.
You know, and trust me, I'm also going to talk about how you can keep such, because then that also diminishes your confidence of becoming a leader.
Don't listen to them.
So we've seen that effects of bullying are almost similar to those of sexual abuse or any form of abuse that we've spoken about in the beginning. And we've also seen the causes as well. They range from home, community, and going to the workspaces. But in passing, I also want to talk about cyberbullying. Because munu wese is online. Munu wese anutenga data.
Because everybody is online,
Munu
everybody
wese has access to internet. And cyberbullying is that one thing that has also affected so many, especially of the young women and girls. We make fun of it when it's not your turn, when it's somebody else, right? And we read about people who end up committing suicide, right? People who end up depressed that they don't want to leave the comfort of their homes. There's a lot that happens, right? Until it knocks on your door, and then you start realizing how much it hurts. So cyberbullying as well, people that we accept to be friends not knowing who they are, right? People who pass negative comments about us on social media. And I want to give an example. Political leaders, women leaders. You know it's difficult to be a leader when you are a woman. Past election period, it didn't matter which political party you belonged to, but they were called all sorts of names, body shaming, you know, people digging their past and all, just so they could discourage them from participating. And so cyberbullying is that one form of bullying as well. I met some of you a few weeks ago, or is it a month? When we had the opportunity to watch a movie on human trafficking at Sam Levy. So we just want to thank our mom for creating that opportunity for us, because it was insightful. It was an eye-opener to actually look at human trafficking at a different lens. And it's also our understanding of human trafficking is somebody who has been taken to Kuwait or Oman, or wherever. Human trafficking that happens between town to town, city to city, people don't talk about it, right? And this one, I want to focus mostly on the young women and girls who are in tertiary institutions. Because I come there, I see you, I know you, right? There is this peer pressure that comes with you being in school. And then when you get there, your father sold 2 mombes for you to go to school. Money was enough for fees, but it was not enough for swag, right? But when you get to school, you also want to fit in. You want to buy the latest shoes. Just so I can remind you guys, it's a very difficult world out there. I started buying original shoes only when I started working. But when I was in college, hey, I couldn't even afford to buy mafuta no dura. But that also saved me a lot, because then, and
Who's interested in an average girls, right?
And so you get there, you want to fit in, you want to be part of the team. You also want to buy these nice things, including buying cars. Do you know there are people who buy cars that they park at school, and when they're going back home, bus. Have you heard of that? So human trafficking, it's people who are being picked up from UZ, and you are taken to Bindura farm. I know where it is. Kunofara moshikako. And then your drinks are spiked. And then you become unfortunate. Are you listening? Yes. That's also a form of human trafficking. Before you speak of Omani and Kuwait. And so I want to hear from you guys the root causes of human trafficking.
One is you not being satisfied by what you have and wanting to get to greener pastures. It can also lead to you being human trafficked.
Another one to your far right, ma'am.
Thank you so much. I'm just adding up from what she said. Kuti tingopedza nyaya is pressure. Pressure.
In summary, it's pressure.
Pressure. Unenge uine pressure. Tipei mamwe, one last one. Isiri pressure mainyanya.
Thank you, ma'am. Sometimes when you're coming from a poor background, it actually forces you to do things that you're not supposed to do.
Do not judge her. I'm going to make a comment on what you said later on. Yes?
Psychological manipulation. Vananonzi hande kunze kwenyika tokupe mabasa. Wosvika hapana chiriko yato human trafficking.
There are false job promises of jobs abroad, and then you get there to find that there's no job prospect at all.
Okay, thank you. The issue around poverty, guys, you will not understand. If you are coming from a well-to-do family, you should thank God. Because sometimes even prayer will not help you withstand the pressure. I'm sure that's why we are having these conversations. Because it will end in tears. Do you hear me? Because Chakatoti Chengeta is what kept us safe, alive, and what made us succeed. It's prayer. If it wasn't for that, do you hear me? Poverty. Unotanga uchamboshingirira uchita, I don't want the shoes. I can do without. I don't want to go for drinks. I can do without. Until there comes a friend who is like Delilah. Do you hear me? So you cannot ignore that. I also want us to look at mostly issues to do with human trafficking impact. Looks at issues of emotional, social isolation, issues of economic disparities that we spoke about. But there's human trafficking in youth here. And it's Tambostara, the young girls who want to attend parties, traffickers who lure victims with promises of good times, somebody said it. And then also trapping victims in exploitation world. I don't know if you have read stories on social media of the one that's trending, girls have been going to Dubai. Friends who actually tell you, I'll pay for your airfare, I'll pay for your accommodation. Like, seriously, is your father? And then also, I wanted to talk about the boys. It's not just the ladies, the boys as well. I have seen boys in tertiary institutions who are called escorts. Have you heard about that? There are escorts in tertiary institutions where vakadzi vakuru vanenge inini actually go there. Nemapombi. And then we pick up these young guys. And I want to take you to South Africa. You know, I just need company. And be careful. But also, just like abuse, we need a lot of awareness raising. If you realize that there's a lot of awareness raising that's happening around gender-based violence and not so much about human trafficking. That's why kuno kutrima victims tere Zimbabwe, nego Africa. Ndijo.
That's why in Zimbabwe and Africa there's a greater propensity.
Because then you realize that. How many of you in here know that the government of Zimbabwe introduced the National Action Plan on ending human trafficking? I was actively involved in that process. Remember, I sit on a board, Rekubindra University, that looks into human trafficking. And it was a whole-funded project by Nottingham University. Quite interesting. So you realize that with human trafficking, there's not much awareness. If we could have that awareness raising, muchech, kuchkoro, mabaz, wherever we go. And it's my airports as well. Ndakambokwira nemumwe musikana. She was just, I think, around 19, 20. I asked her, where are you going? And she said, I'm going to Dubai. Ndikati, what are you going to do there? She said, I'm going on holiday. Me doing body scanning. Cha-cha, holiday. This shoe doesn't look like someone going on holiday. Where are you going? Holiday. So the person who is invited there will definitely tell her, if anyone asks you, tell them you're going on holiday, all right? It was so sad. I really wanted to be close to her. The moment we got in the lounge, Chagara, akanditiza away. Katoti amaya vakuda kutondiongorora, you know?
She ran away from
Vadaundikanganisa boy yangu. And is it? But these are some of the cases. So we need more awareness raising and the support systems and structures as well, right from the family setup to the church, learning institutions, and at a national level. Because then you will realize, kuden our African homes, kushaya emotion, was there. The moment you tell your parents and your siblings that you found an opportunity to go to Dubai, do you think people will discourage you? Everybody will say go, because you are our ticket to becoming the next Mbingas in the family. And then boom, sexual harassment at the workplace. And somebody brought it up. Partly, and we want to talk more about it. How many of you in here go to work? Yes. So we should have more tithes coming home. Should I call for another plate? So, with sexual harassment at the workplace, we are looking at unwelcome sexual advances, requests for sexual favors, sexual verbal or physical contact, unwanted touching and intimate body areas. Have you seen kumabasa where people use language that's unwelcoming and very uncomfortable, area of the opposite sex? What words have you heard? What have they said to you? What have they told you at work?
Thank you, ma'am, for the opportunity. Let's say you're a lady and you're working in an office and your boss is a male. I'm not gonna go see, hello, sexy, you're looking dope today. Like something.
Mukweta sei vana kumabasa uko. Hanzi nongodza vamwe makanzi chi?
To your far right, ma'am.
Yes.
They would call you jigugwa. This is a term for a sex worker or a prostitute. So they would just say you are a jigugwa. I work in industry, so there are a few girls, meaning you can offer your services to all the guys that are in the industry.
Like seriously? That's rude. That's harsh. And yes. What else have they said? Or even commenting the way you dress. Until you know. Yes. Commenting the way you dress. What have they said to you about your dressing?
Thank you, ma'am. Okay. For an example, I've witnessed, like, Basokwando Shandera, this other guy, I start conversation with a female figure. One relationship. So, ndakangomunzwa achiti, aukaramba uchidai chakudya mukadzi wemunhu.
If you keep carrying on like this, I'll devour you.
Interesting. I think we're only laughing here, Anditi. But the effects to the person arupiwa such comments, they are unbearable.
Telling someone's wife that I'm going to eat you.
To your far right, ma'am.
Thank you so much. I just think this is not one-sided, because at one point I was at work and my zipper obviously was not fixed up properly. The other lady walked up to me and said, can you pull up your zipper? If you're too lazy to do that, I can help you do it. So.
Interesting. So it's not it's not just the ladies, it's the gentlemen as well. And there are women who are making work unbearable for our brothers in here. And with weird comments. And
Okay, ma'am, thank you. Like, I've noticed kuti mazuva ano nemisika, uri kubasa, like, boss anogona kutarisa. Utoona kuti mazita akatarisa kumashure, but baby uri chibhora.
So, we are at risk. And true risk kwa kumabaso. Vanhu vari kuti risk and yes. I know there's a lot that happens within the workspaces, and I think there are 2 cases zakabva kuita noise recently. There is one from one company that I won't mention, where there was a lot of sexual harassment happening. It was 1 case, and then the second, and then third, and then they became 10. All from just one manager, you know. And then there's 1 case where the CEO was made to pay lots of monies. Those who go on social media for a purpose know. Those who don't and just follow my influencers, you would know about this. But it made a lot of headlines. So much money that he was made to pay for years, where this lady was sexually harassed at the workplace. And because of that, ILO, together with Gender Commission Zimbabwe, and Timan's got into the counselor, anti-domestic violence council. You heard that? So if I find you wanting as well. So Gender Commission and ILO worked on a whole sexual harassment at the workplace policy that is being shared and being encouraged. Whilst we are doing our day-to-day, it's mandatory for every company, every organization, every institution to have these policies. And it's not just a policy that we just put in the filing cabinet. It's a policy that each and every one of you, when you join the company, you're supposed to be inducted on. And knowing your rights, if you join a company, then they don't tell you about this teaser. And yes. Yeah, and the effects as well. Mostly related to abuse, and emotional, and then we are also looking at physical, and then we are looking at mental health issues. Remember that story I told you where the CEO was made to pay, and that lady in a mental health institution because of just sexual harassment that would happen in Kubas. And then preventative measures for sexual harassment in the workplace. Awareness raising keeps coming up. I know a lot of people don't know about this, but when you join companies, please do ask for the HR policy. It's allowed, the HR policies, and it's allowed. Read them, understand them. They're supposed to safeguard you. They are supposed to protect you. And also awareness raising. It doesn't mean you only have to learn about this and know about it when you're at work, but also raising awareness about it also. Kutoona billboards sexual harassment at the workplace is a crime. We want to hear jingles. We want to see skits, and especially now that it has just been launched, we want to make noise about it. And also support systems, counseling, legal assistance. I know our Leonard friend, but then fortunately, I was offered a PhD by University of Zimbabwe to do criminology and law, so I'm joining you soon. So, legal services and all, but also support from family, home, kuenda ku church, and systems at a national level. And people don't know where to get these services. And so I'm also going to share, after I'm done with my presentation, if you want to hear where you can get help, if you are a victim or a survivor, you need counseling, you need services, you will know where to go. And the cases that I spoke about, and also that it affects both men and women and all, we spoke about it. There is somebody who's going to talk about drug and substance abuse. This is not my topic. I'm just gonna run through this, and somebody else is going to talk to you about this. But I just thought you should know. And it's the causes of drug and substance abuse, poverty amongst young people, mostly in the high-density suburbs where I've seen people taking mtoriro and dying, and it's people smoking mabulbs, the powder. People smoking mvura dzekumamochwari dzinenge dzagezeswa vanhu andisandanyatsoinzwisisa zvangu. Yes, they actually pay people who work at the morgues to give them mvura iyai. They smoke it. And then my mental health issues, where sometimes you're experiencing bullying kuchikoro and you don't have anyone to talk about it, or you're experiencing sexual harassment at the workplace and you don't have anyone to talk about it. Or you have had a relationship with Thomas. You are just 15. He is 25. You don't want to talk about it, right? And then eventually you turn to drugs for support or finding solace. Do you know that? It's not all people who do drugs, they are coming from underprivileged backgrounds. Others have got their own reasons. And I've seen teenage mothers who also do drugs because they can't cope. You've got a baby. You're coming from an underprivileged background. You can't go to school. And then you need to take care of that baby. You are HIV positive. You have got an obstetric fistula disorder. They tend to drugs as well. And then peer pressure. Yo. And remember, it's not only kids who are coming from underprivileged backgrounds who do drugs. Ma drugs are not nema stages. And it's so siana. The elite, those who are coming from Samora, have got enough money to buy the expensive ones. But also those coming from Samora, they go to Mbari to experience how it feels like to take Mutoriro, where they do pasa nights. Have you heard of those? Have you heard of those? Yes. They go to Mbari, kunetwa pasa nights. They also want to experience that. Oh, those who come from Bulawayo, the Vuzu parties, right? Have you heard about those? Yes. And the effects, yes, health issues, high crime rates, sexual abuse, because you're not sane. If you're not sane, you cannot make decisions. Ziri sane as well. After taking drugs, there's a lot that's going to happen. There is a lot that usually happens, just like when you take alcohol. Because then when you take alcohol, you are not yourself. That's why you see young girls who wake up magumbeze. You wake up in Chitungwiza. You asking yourself, how did I get here? You find yourself having crossed the border. You are now in South Africa. That's what drugs do to you. And it's interventions, the support systems that we spoke about at different levels, and community organizations that do outreaches. These are some of the issues that we look into. So we do quite a number of campaigns: drug and substance abuse, SRA, HRA, teenage pregnancies, human trafficking, and also awareness raising. Right, I know you are wondering, you have moved from abuse, now you're talking about drought. I thought this is important, that the president himself, His Excellency, announced that there is drought. And we know it has been exacerbated by climate change. And there's a lot that's going to happen because of drought. You think it's just to do with poverty. There is a lot that's going to happen because of droughts. Child marriages, teen pregnancies, unsafe abortions, statistics currently are shocking. It's going to get worse. Issues of high crime rates, ritual killings, those who go on social media for a purpose know what has been happening. People are being killed. Shamari chaizvo. Zvekutoti vanhu vari kuwanikwa vasina zvigunwe, vasina maziso, vasina chii, because somebody somewhere said, if you bring me somebody's left hand, nhamo yako yese inobva yapera. Handiti? I personally was involved in the case that happened, Kwamreo, because we operate there. You remember the Makore story that made a lot of noise. Handiti? So such things. Increases in cases of abuse and gender-based violence. Kutangira kumba domestic violence, kuna baba na amai. Ndizvo here? That will also affect you as kids. That will affect your education. That will affect your mental sanity. That will affect everything about you. Period, poverty and wash issues. I hate it when people say, why do people give a fuss about period poverty? It's not just a period. It's not just a period. People don't go to school for 5 whole days because there is period. Did you know that? Boys, did you know that? The cases of dysmenorrhea, those ladies have the conditions. Did you know that? Did you know there are issues of stigma? There are issues of mental health. There are issues of their physical health that are concerned. The period poverty. No zere. There are people at this point in time somewhere, when that time of the month comes, they are using cow dung. They are using machira. People, you guys don't know about it. So when it's that time of the month, and they use them. So there's a lot that's going to happen. And it's also what we've also been doing. Some of the pictures that I'm going to show you, there is support that we've been receiving from Agape Foundation. At not end. We are forever grateful. We have been receiving sanitary wear for our girls. So we are doing reusable sanitary pads. One, they help Vaskana who can't afford. Two, it comes through as a profit-making initiative that takes Vaskana who are out of school into school. We can buy groceries for them. We can support their kids, especially the teen mothers. And we do the reusable sanitary pads at a large scale. VSO, and a Catholic Relief, we're doing it as an income-generating project. But we've also been doing a Dignity Kit campaign since COVID period, because we realized a period didn't go lockdown. So we needed to give Vaskana my Dignity Kit. So it's not just the sanitary pads, the pens, the panties, the toothbrushes, the soap, the kuti. I tore a happy period. And so we are still running it. For those who would want to support, we are still doing it. Because Menstrual Hygiene Day is coming, and we want to distribute them. So please feel free to just also support and make a difference. And then there are issues of human trafficking. They are going to escalate because of the drought situation. They are going to escalate. All opportunities that are going to come, people would want to take advantage of those. So here's a picture gallery. I just thought it would be good to know the work that we are doing. So those are Dignity Kits that we were distributing. Kuchirezi, that's an anti-bullying campaign that we're doing with support from UNESCO. Those are some of our girls from our Dandaro team Chitungwiza. And then we are doing the Black Friday campaign, encouraging people to wear black on Fridays, just so we raise awareness on gender-based violence. And then also awareness raising on bullying, our work with men and boys. We do sports as an advocacy too, engaging Varume. And the income-generating projects that we are doing, we are not just doing reusable sanitary pads. We do detergents as well. So those with companies, organizations, schools, and individuals as well. The leadership hubs that we do, those are the girls. And have you seen familiar faces? The support that we get from Agape Foundation. Embracing equity for equality and campaigns on child marriages. And next slide, please. Yes, our girls from schools, Shamari child rights clubs, and our dandaros in the communities. Commemorations that we have done, International Day of the Girl Child, and then drug and substance abuse. This is Mbari. Kumbare toshandirako. Vanoti daiko gozingaiti. Child marriages campaigns that we're doing, Kwachi Water. There's an element of inclusivity. We work with those also living with disabilities. And then our leadership hubs as well. Solar dryers that we use kwa Mrewa, our one-stop center for entrepreneurship that helps girls that are coming from vulnerable families. Our work with religious leaders, Machif, on ending child marriages. Yes, International Day of the Girl Child 2023. Agape hosted us, takaendeswa ku movie house. Private, mufunge. Never scanaved Bangaba from Seke Rural, Chiwota, and Chitungwiza. First time, Kutsika Gumbaraopa same levy and watch the human trafficking movie. It was awesome. And the awards that we are giving to outstanding men who are supporting and promoting our agenda. GBV awareness at public water collecting points. Tataranya awareness raising. So we give them buckets, wherever they take the buckets to, they remember that the whole idea is to end gender-based violence at public water collecting points. And those are some of the girls who have participated in our leadership hubs. And we are igniting the power within, creating spaces, opportunities, providing resources. Yes, kuchiredzi kwatino shandira. There's also female genital mutilation. People ask if this is happening in Zimbabwe. Yes, it's happening in Chiredzi. So we also raise awareness around such. Thank you. We're done. Okay, questions. Let's interact. Questions, comments, reflections, feelings. Emoji.
Thank you, ma'am. My question is regarding gender-based violence, in particular in regards to men. I have actually many relatives who are facing gender-based violence, but we really cannot help them because it's quite embarrassing to say that your wife is either beating you or shouting at you. So I don't know, how can we help them?
Okay, I'll take one more and then maybe respond, Kawan.
Right, so my question is in and around, we spoke a lot about abuse, we spoke a lot about reporting, we spoke a lot about having different services for those that have experienced abuse, but my question would be in and around, how do you as an individual, I think what I would want you to address is to the person who has experienced this abuse and maybe they're at that point where they're thinking, what should I do about it? Should I report? Should I? Because many of these things are happening in environments where you still have to go back afterwards. So this is why people then stay quiet to be like, I was abused at home, so I can report my father, but I still have to go back home. I can report my boss, but I still have to go back to work. So why people end up quiet about the whole issue is because they then don't have a way forward after they have reported, so they end up just saying, let me just keep quiet. So what then is the best way for that individual to navigate, number one, the stigma that comes after you have reported, and also what can we as a community do to help individuals who have experienced abuse so that they feel more comfortable talking about it and they feel more comfortable reintegrating into the communities after they have reported and after it has become, I guess, known that this is what has happened? What can we as a community do to support these people?
Okay, so I'll start off with an interesting subject about men not owning up and speaking out with regards to cases of abuse. And usually, we have seen the number of cases involving men who are being victimized, committing suicide. I think it starts with the way we were socialized. Especially within our African culture. Growing up, what I used to see was that I was allowed to cry. It was okay for me to cry. But if my brother would do the same, hakuna murume anochema, urucheme, you know.
receive a rebuke for that.
It's okay for women to cry. It's okay for women to show emotions and feelings. But it has not been accepted as okay for men to do the same. And sadly, they have grown to embrace those abnormalities. They have grown to embrace such at different levels. Wakaenda kuchikoro in learning institutions, you see men go through a lot, but they don't show it. Especially cases of bullying. They affect the boy child more. Of course, vaskana, but bullying yacho yakasiyana nevakomana, because if I would tell you cases of bullying that happen to the boy child, some of them, they are unbearable. And then you realize within the learning institutions, then quite a kuma workspaces, where sometimes as wives, we are also not supportive because you know, you have a whole list of things that you want to tell him. Hey, and the fees, you know, next week, we want to pay fees. And then we need to buy groceries. You know, my hair needs to be done. And then I need to get my nails done. And then my parents, because varume vakadzidskod, they are providers. You understand? That puts also a lot of pressure. It doesn't have room to say, this I cannot do. You get it? So there is a lot that men go through. It's okay for women to cry when relationships don't work, but it's never okay for varume. We do not want to appreciate it. It's okay for him to show emotion. Say, I couldn't handle it. Handling a divorce, Gweta, handling loss of your own mother, you know. Baba vangu vakafirwa na mai vavo. Varikuenda kunochema, mai vavo sing for the last time. His brothers were like, shishingisese murume. Joseph, shishingisese murume, you know.
Just be strong.
But you are seeing your mother for the last time. So we also need to build a society where we acknowledge and change the narrative to say, it's okay for men to show emotions. It's okay for men to also acknowledge pressure. And it's even you to scan at tertiary institutions. Like, I want a girlfriend allowance. So, and I always tell people, how do you ask somebody who is not your father or your guardian to do? You get it? You can't. Because already you're putting pressure. You came to learn, and so did he. You understand? So we need to raise more awareness as friends when we have conversations. Within the home setup, how we are grooming our boys. In churches as well. When we come here for prayer mountains, please let the boys cry. They also have issues. And do not, I know there's an element of stigma. You start saying bad things about them. But they are also showing their emotions. So more awareness and also creating support structures to say they also face issues and challenges just like we do. Because then, Mazano people are saying, those who do social work, the development practitioners in the house, the gap that we are creating. Because each and every time, Patino Mira, we are talking about the girl child. And then less about the boy child. Look at the gap that we are creating. SDGs, Agenda 2030 and all. It's not a race. It's not a race. It makes sense. Just try and create the same spaces and opportunities. And then coming back to, I hope you won't be offended if I call you Wasu. You're good. So coming back to Wasu, we have realized that sometimes, we come to you and say, open up, speak out, share if you have been a victim of abuse, you're going through abuse and all. But then we do not share enough information that is comprehensive to say, after I have opened up, what's going to happen? I have highlighted that I'm being abused at work by my boss, but I still need a job. I've highlighted that I'm being abused at home by my father, but I still need accommodation. I still need to go to school. So I think information that we do not pass on is that right when you feel there is a case that you need to be attended to or you are a victim, there is a whole lot of support available for you. The moment you report your case, there is a referral pathway that is used at a national level. If it's at the work space, it means we are going to push so that justice prevails and your boss is taken to book. Then you can safely go back to work. But within the sexual harassment policy, there is also the element of somebody within the workplace who's given the responsibility of providing counseling. And then there's peer-to-peer support that's supposed to be done. So it's a whole process. What lacks now is proper implementation of such, where you only know where to report and how to report it. But then the whole policy, you are not privy of it, and you are not in a position to know what's the next step. But we also have stubborn workmates who also do not show emotions, who are not supportive, who do not then come through and say, it has happened to you. Tomorrow it's going to be me. So it's about group. We need a culture within the workplace, a culture within the church space, a culture within the home setup, whereby kana handadzi yangu yabata mwana wangu chibaro, you cease to be my brother. The Bible says forgive, but people, what you need to know is that usually with people like that, it's not going to happen to one person. He has done it to several other zukurus in the family. Your wives as well, so that you get angry. He has done it to a lot of people, including your neighbors. So we need to allow the rule of law to take its course, but also to provide support systems, especially at the home setup. Because mwana achadzoka, imi mama yamsisina murume akujeri, but I'm still your child. Imi mama sisina your brother, but you're still my aunt. I need you. I know of people who said, we're not going to pay your fees anymore because my brother is in prison. Then I can start paying fees for you. So it's also a culture that we need to create and build so that at the end of the day, there is support provided for. But kunema support groups akawanda that you can join if you are a survivor. So I'll share information on that. It does help as well. Because you realize, it's just me, I'm alone. Or this is worse. There are worse situations out there of people who have gone through worse. And we have experienced a lot in life that they didn't have anyone to share with. But when you get to be in the right spaces, you realize that there is healing. And you're able to go back to your life and become a champion of change. Ndizvo.
My question is more linked to, you mentioned the rule of law, but then the reality of the matter is that there is corruption in the justice system. So my question is more linked. Let's say there's a victim that comes to you and say, I've been raped and all that. Do you have watch and brief policies that would then monitor on how the case is progressing and if there's any shady business, you get involved and all? Because I know of one organization that advocate for animal rights. They monitor my cases from when the accused is arrested and the trial and everything. And they even go to the extent of noting down the judgments and if it is the judgment that fits the conduct that the perpetrator would have committed.
Okay, thank you. I think that's an interesting one. Number one, I want you to know that there are moments where we think there are acts of corruption that would have taken place, and yet at times this is what happens. Because people are not aware of the referral pathways, like what do you do the moment you know you've got a case that you need to report? If you go alone and report the case to the police, already we have gaps, right? In terms of information that has been shared with the police. And then we are probably going to get into the picture when the first court hearing is taking place and we've missed out on a lot. So instead of us getting a fair judgment, we are likely going to get something negative because tatomisa information yese kuti docket ratongotakurwa vanhu vatokumapurisa pamwe pacho people will come to us when already judgment has been passed, and then we need to go through the whole process yekuti tinoita appeal anditi. So if there is that, and then there is corruption for real, you know, where at times we know there are people who take advantage of positions that they hold, people who take advantage of most likely the links and the networks that they have, and then at times it can be otherwise. But then what we have done because of the referral pathway, it allows us to use the strengths of our partners. Shamari does the escorts, police, hospital, court, psychosocial support, we do that, and then the safe shelters. But then we have WILSA, Women in Law Southern Africa, which also is strong legal-wise, or Justice for Children. So we're bringing in WILSA and Justice for Children to look into the legal aspect. But what people also don't know is the public prosecutor watrukunoona wehurumende gweta mundikorrekte kana ndatadza ari kunomiririra iwewe haana munhu ari kumirira ari kunomirira une right yekuti kana tabuda mucourt you go and ask how did this go ko apa tatadza papi takanganisika papi, you know, it's because you know. But if you're not privy to that information, things will also go otherwise. But the good thing is there are also our partners who are good at documenting these cases. That's why you see there are cases and tsatare mazita anditi tsatare mazita. There are cases dzekuti takatombodzimhanyira tikapinda busy anditi we were told hapana hampagari, you understand. And then some years later when things went sour, they had to go and reopen the dockets. Now just the rule of law is taking its course. So sometimes it's the knowledge that people don't have of how the referral pathway works, but we try our level best to work with the partners to ensure that we curb issues of corruption or gaps that are there in terms of reporting. I don't know if I have answered you well.
My question is on, like, I'm using my brother's question on, is there any policy or law which we have, like, kana mono a reporter kubasandiga, and then he said, like, a reporter is like a boss or someone, and then he said, a reporter, this case, you have damaged the company's name, so you are going to leave this company. This one will be the manager who will be like saying, you have damaged the name of the company, so you should be leaving the company. Is there any law or a policy which you will be defending that person? Because some of us, we are fearing to leave, like to come to report the abuse just because we need the job.
Have you ever seen the policy that I was speaking about, the sexual harassment policy at the workplace? Have you ever seen it?
Not yet.
Have you ever read it?
No.
Yeah, I'm challenging you to do so. Because then, this is what happens. It starts to protect you. It starts to protect you right at the workplace because you're knowing your rights and you know the procedures that are going to be taken right from where you're going to report. And then as you go to the courts of laws, those public prosecutor who has your interest at heart, who's also going to explain to you on how the procedure works. You have right to be protected, and after you would have reported your case. You have right also, I know with bigger companies where you can actually be moved from one branch to another, or where sometimes you can be given an option, would you want to resign, and we pay you, and just so probably would want to protect your sanity, or you don't want to face the effects of stigma around the workplace. So it's you knowing that you are fully protected with this sexual harassment policy, not just at the workplace. It's a policy document that is recognized at a national level, whereby when you go to the courts, it will still protect you, but with options that are available for your sanity, for your security, and for everything else that you feel might affect you otherwise, including providing a qualified counselor who will support you, and also ensuring that you have available structures at hand that will also be able to support you. Ndakupindura. All right, so Ignite Youth, ahoye! Guys, are you tired? God Nation, oye! Yes, thank you so much, guys. You have been an amazing crowd. Thank you so much. Thank you for your time. Thank you for the engagement. I look forward to engaging with you. I'm still around, so please do look for me. But we all have a role to play in supporting, in providing spaces for each other, and there is help for us. So in the home, at church, let's raise awareness wherever we are. It's not a race. Thank you so much.